Okay, so again, we are in a session of talking about developing your psychic abilities. Right now, we're talking about psychic blocks because a lot of people have psychic blocks, specifically with emotions, right? And the the trick to understanding your psychic blocks is really tapping into your emotions. So the emotions are like the biggest blocks, because the emotions are kind of the thing that's really blocking us from really unveiling and unleashing our psychic abilities to its fullest potential. I know a lot of y'all have already activated your psychic abilities, which is great. But I know that some of y'all are hitting a ceiling, right? And we want to go past that ceiling. And to go past that ceiling, you have to do the deep emotional work. Okay. And I'm not just talking about therapy, right? This is the thing. Therapy is great, but there's so many different modalities to really healing psychic or healing emotional blocks, healing emotional trauma. But this is the key to unveiling your psychic abilities. Okay. This is the key. You got to do that emotional processing. Okay. Simply, it looks like meditation, but you can also learn of different ways to process your emotions to really empower you to have a clear mind and a clear soul too. And you really, that's like the other thing too. I know some of y'all might have, started to do magic work, and maybe even dealing with curses. I really want to empower y'all. Don't touch the curses. I'm telling you right now, the karma is not worth it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. And I'm talking about for you, okay? No, it doesn't matter what the other person did or anything like that. I'm talking about for you. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to do any curses or anything like that. And it's funny because a lot of people think that curses are, it's like a magic ritual or something that you have to do with a candle. No, curses, simply put, come from how we speak. That's it. That's really like the key. So I want y'all to really watch how you speak. Watch when you speak of other people. I don't care how terrible that person is, watch how you speak because it's really going to affect you on a spiritual level. Okay. Maybe in this reality immediately, we don't see it. We don't see the immediate effect of it, but it does have an effect. So I really want y'all to start watching what you speak and watching about how you curse people. Okay. Try to stay away from that. Try to really, again, process your emotions. If you're feeling angry, if you're feeling irritated, if you get triggered, learn how to process your emotions. This is really going to help you get back to a balanced state because, again, a lot of people's psychic abilities, they're coming online. And a big reason is because there's an acceleration process taking place. People say, the veil is being lifted. Yeah, it's being lifted, but also there's a process taking place right now where our DNA is shifting and changing, and a lot of us are being activated to tap into these abilities. But again, we want to make sure that we are activating these abilities for our greatest good, for the world's greatest good, okay? Because Earth, like Gaia, she don't have time. She don't have time for people messing around and doing dumb stuff with their abilities. Okay, we really want to have people online who have their psychic abilities who are really here to do good and to empower people to really be their greatest version of themselves. Okay, so that's your emotional blocks. I didn't want to get too much into that because it takes up a lot of time. Those are your emotional blocks. Okay, also we talked about, this is just for the people who are listening to the recording. We just talked about spiritual blocks too. Spiritual blocks are usually tied to past life. So you want to do some past life regression work, which you can do on your own. You can do with a person. You cannot do with Chat GPT. I just talked to somebody about this. They try to use Chat GPT, and I was like, girl, like if you're gonna rely on that, I'm telling you right now, it might get you to a certain place. It's not going to get you too far. Okay. So, and the knowledge on there honestly is very limited. I think another client, she was doing astrology, astrocartography, which is where you use astrology to see your optimal location. Um, she used ChatGPT for that, but the information was very shallow. So then I told her to, go on YouTube and find a course on this. But anyway, my point is, we need to really start tapping into ourselves, tapping in with ourselves, working with people, working with guides and healers to help us unleash ourselves so we can really tap into our true potential. Okay. And so for some of y'all, there are also environmental blocks. This is one thing that we didn't talk about before. Your environment, I have to say this, your environment is one of the biggest blocks when it comes to your self-development, your psychic development. It's your environment, okay? So you can really, if you live alone, you can really set your space up to set a powerful foundation to unleash your psychic abilities, which we're going to talk more about in a second when we talk about the foundation to psychic abilities and protection. But you need to make sure your physical space is like at its best, okay? If you're working in a messy, unorganized environment, your work is going to be messy and unorganized, okay? I mean, that's just the truth. So you really need to start to tap into those physical blocks. Also, you might have some physical blocks within your body. That's when Reiki can really come to place. Make sure you do it with a reliable Reiki master who, like, how do I put this? Basically, if you go with a Reiki master or any practitioner, any healing practitioner, and you don't feel the effects within, I would say within a week. For some people, it might be a little bit slower, but I would say within a week, I would go to somebody else after that. Okay. This is just my personal opinion, but it's just like, I really want y'all to make sure that, when you go to these healers, when you go to these practitioners, that, they are having an effect on you. Sometimes people do have a mental block that's not allowing for them to be healed in this way. That's a little bit rare. But my point is, just make sure you're working with people who are reliable, who have been doing the work for a while, and people who are masters of the work. Okay. Yes, sometimes they have been doing this in past lives, so they have accumulated a lot of, I guess, I can't really find any other words to say it, but they've been collecting a lot of good karma in that field to allow them to be a master of it in this lifetime. That's true, but it's not everybody. Okay. So those are, I just want to make sure. So we went through the emotional blocks, we went through the spiritual blocks, we went through physical blocks. Okay, so, and a big part of this, again, is processing our emotions. Okay, so let's get into do you guys have any questions about that before we move on? Nope, we're all okay. Okay, perfect.
Get started on your wellness journey today. Whether you are starting your wellness journey, in the middle of it, or finishing it, this library will help you 50 resources on how to jumpstart your wellness. And really, it has so much more than that. It has full guides on how to quantum leap, full guides on how to manifest, and even my personal favorite, coloring books. Yes, and I'm talking unique coloring books. Y'all already know what we're dealing with, okay? We have baobab coloring books, cactus plant coloring books, and so much more. And it's completely free. So please make sure to check it out, especially if you're on your wellness journey, or if you know a friend who is on the wellness journey and wants some free resources, please let them know about the wellness library, okay? The link is in the show notes below. I love y'all so much. Let's get back to the show.
Okay. So now we're going to get into laying the foundation for your psychic abilities. And the reason why I haven't gotten to the exact psychic abilities right now is because this is so important. Like I said earlier, I unfortunately know too many people who have channeled and they didn't channel who they wanted to channel. That's how we're going to put it. So I wanted to talk about really building a solid foundation for psychic abilities. Okay. So the first thing is cleanliness. Okay. So when we talked about our understanding our psychic blocks, we talked about emotional cleanliness, right? Your mental cleanliness, your mind needs to be clean and clear. And once it's truly clean and clear, oh my God, your abilities are going to be online like it's nothing. Okay. It's so easy, but you got to have the cleanliness. You have a clean space mentally, physically, and spiritually. Okay. And this is whenever you're doing healing work. So one of the things that I teach a lot of my clients who I work with who are healers is you need to learn how to protect your space. Yes, sage sometimes works, but you know how I'm squinting my eyes right now? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this is for many different reasons. Sometimes sage is powerful, but and it can be the most powerful in North America. If you get into South America, they use copal, which is what I highly recommend for people to use. So when it comes to like cleaning your space or saging or smudging your space, I really just want y'all to tap into two things. I want y'all to tap into the environment where you're at locationally. Okay, like I said, North America, where you're at right now, Washington State. Sage is a really it's great. I personally use mugwort because it's a little bit stronger than sage, depending on again where you're at. Okay, if you are in a space that's haunted, or if you're dealing with somebody who is really going through deep spiritual trauma, I would highly recommend to use mugwort. Okay. And then the second thing is what you're when you're dealing with smudging a space is your ancestry. That's the other thing. I highly recommend for you to tap into your ancestry, see and research what your ancestors have used in the past. That's going to be what is most powerful with you. I'm not going to get into different lineages and ancestry because it'll take too long. But I want you to, so the best thing I can do is tap into your ancestry, see what your ancestors have used in the past. That's going to allow you to also tap within the power of your ancestors when you're doing the work that you need to do, whether it's healing work, whether it's just activating your psychic abilities for yourself. You need to really tap into that lineage. The best way to do that is just see what your ancestors used, okay? Just write this down. I know Marlene had mentioned you guys are interested in remote viewing, so I'll try to talk about that at the end. But that just came up real quick. So cleaning, so smudging your space, so smudging your physical space. Okay, the other thing is the space that you're doing your work in, it needs to be clean. It needs to be clean. Okay, so whether you section off a part of your studio, you section off a room in your house, it needs to be clean. Okay, it needs to be clean. It needs to be clear. Okay, so if y'all haven't gone to feng shui, I highly suggest to get into feng shui. Okay, it really, especially if you're struggling with cleaning, having a clean space, there is a magic to feng shui where it's like once you feng shui your space, you're going to be tapped into a kind of a mode or a subconscious mode of always having a clean space. So what do I mean by this? I mean, once I feng shuied my space was always clean. I always had to pick up stuff and put stuff away subconsciously. It wasn't even a thing where it was like, oh, I need to clean up right now. It was like when I got home, if there was, or every time before I left the door of my house or wherever I was staying, or I am staying, I look around my room and I'm like, okay, is everything clean and clear? No, I pick up real quick and then I leave my space and I leave the house or the room that I'm in. There's a subconscious thing to when it comes to feng shui. So I really encourage y'all to get into that. Okay. But again, the clean and clear is really important. Okay. So like I said, even if your space is cluttered, any amount of smudging, it's not going to help, because the thing with smudging is you really want to make sure you get into like kind of the cracks of your room. If your room or the space that you're working in is cluttered, it's not going to be able to reach everywhere. And that cluttered space is where a lot of the negative entities are going to start hiding. Okay. So if it's clean and clear, right? So really, I would start with cleaning the space first, clearing out the space. Once it's clean, the smudge will actually be able to reach everywhere and then push the negative entities out the window, right? Your window should be open when you smudge, or you can smudge the room so the smoke gets everywhere and then open the window. Okay. But you need to make sure.
Question.
Mhm.
When you're talking about ancestors, my grandmother pretty much used fresh flowers. My mother used a lot of sweet smelling candles that I didn't care for. And I am very drawn to past life, East Indian prints and spicy incense.
Mm-hmm.
Recommend with that history and background, would ancestry go beyond the relatives that were alive when I was?
Sorry, so your question is, are you asking me, so what to use for Indian ancestry?
Well, if you said in order to cleanse your area, know what your ancestors used, what they
Mm-hmm.
did. And I do know what my grandmother and my mother did. But it doesn't resonate with me. I didn't care for all of the sweet, smelly stuff that was burning all over the house all the time with my mother. Um, and what I do like is the spicy things that actually come from one of my past life experiences, the East Indian scent and spicy incense kind of thing.
Oh,
Um, when you say know what your ancestors did, would that include my own past life?
okay, so two things. So first of all, you need to have an ancestor altar. And on that altar, you do need to have flowers for your grandma, and you do need to have a candle. You don't necessarily have to, it would be nice to light it. It would be nice to light it, but you do have to, I would highly recommend to have that, because those are the ancestors that are more recently connected to you. So, but you need to have an ancestor altar. This is super important. A lot of people miss this. You need to have an ancestor altar. Okay, so make sure you have a space in your home that is for your ancestors. So usually you put pictures of the loved ones that have been deceased. But so for that altar, I would encourage you to get a sweet smelling candle, even though I know you don't like it, but it's going to mean a lot to your mom. Okay. And get those flowers too, even if they're dried. Oh, well, no, get white roses. So you can have that. So that's one thing. And this is for everybody. Make sure you have an ancestor altar. Oh my God. Okay. At a minimum, thank your ancestors daily. Okay. Communicate with your ancestors. They are always here listening. They are here to support you. They are here to just help you with the work that you're doing. Have an ancestor altar. Okay. So that's one thing. Now, when it comes to Indian space clearing, I know they use a lot of sage, and they have, usually if you have for Indians, you can Indian ancestry, you can have a altar. You can, if you want, you can put this with your ancestor altar. You can have a separate altar, it's up to you. But you can use Ganesh and and Krishna. I mean, I don't know if you're Hindu or not, but tapping into Hinduism is really going to help a lot. It's really going to help a lot. Um, and just calling on Krishna to help you, uh, calling on Krishna, your ancestors, your spirit guides to help you with the work that you're doing is also going to help you. Ooh, okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So where were we? What were we talking about? So cleaning your space, clearing your space. Okay, so we talked about smudging. Okay, the second and the most powerful thing is setting up a protective barrier using crystals and plants. Okay. And you can, and at a minimum, I always say this because I really do believe wherever you are, you can do this. You can use a protective barrier. At a minimum, you can get some rocks and you place the rocks. But the trick is you place each rocks or each crystal in the four directions. Okay. And you honor and you thank each direction. I thank you to the north for protection. I thank you to the west for protection. Obviously, know which direction is where. This is important. Make sure you know which direction is where. You can use Google Maps for this. But you want to make sure that you set a protective barrier. Okay. So for people who are dealing with nightmares, I always tell them to set a protective barrier around their bed, honor the four directions, ask for the protection. And this is the strongest barrier that I've seen. This is a barrier that a lot of shamans use when they do ayahuasca. They always say this too. If you've ever done an ayahuasca ceremony or hear about it, they always say this, they say, once you leave this barrier, I can't help you. And there's truth to that because they have to set up a barrier, protective barrier. They have to call on their ancestors and their spirit guides and other spiritual beings to help protect the space. Um, And you don't necessarily have to do a whole ceremony about this. Some people do, some people don't. It's up to you. But the crystals, they are so powerful with this, and they can really, really, really help you with this. Yeah, so setting up that physical protective barrier is really important, especially when you are doing healing work with another person. You need to have that space protected. I think it's a little bit how do I want to put this? It's like, how do I put this nicely? It's a little bit irresponsible, to be honest, to not have that barrier in place and do healing work with another person. So again, make sure you have that protective barrier. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in each corner of the room. It can, but it needs to just be a space. It needs to be a protective barrier around the space that you're doing work in. Okay. So, and this is another thing that'll help you protect you if you are doing channeling. Okay, this is another big thing. And a lot of people, they have mishaps when it comes to channeling. So I want y'all to make sure you have that protective barrier in place when you are channeling. Please, 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 or doing any mediumship work. Please make sure to do that. Okay, so that's cleaning and clearing your space physically. So mentally, meditation. But it doesn't, so meditation too, I guess the best way to do it is just sitting down. Doesn't have to look like that. For some of y'all who have a really hard time sitting down and meditating, I really recommend doing yoga. Yeah, so doing yoga, so you have some movement with it, just so it can help you clear your mental space, okay? For some of y'all, this might be like meditative journaling or drawing. But just make sure it's, when you do that mental clearing, make sure it's intentional, okay? So just make sure that, and when I say intentional, I mean to just set an intention. I am doing a meditative journaling for this reason. I am going to be doing a stream of consciousness journaling for this reason. Okay. Yeah, make sure you're clearing your space. You're clearing your mental space. Okay. The emotional processing is also going to help with it. Ooh, sorry. Okay. And cleaning your space spiritually. When you clean and clear your space spiritually, that's when, I mean, smudging comes into play also. But when it comes to clearing your space spiritually, I really want to empower y'all to just set the intention, call on your ancestors, call on your spirit guides, call on God, call on the universe, okay, however you want to, however you want to put it. And just call on them to really clear the space, help you clear the space, okay? Whenever I smudge, I say, well, for me, I use the word God. Again, doesn't matter what the word is. The key is that it's a word that is powerful to you, okay? Remember, you are the creator of your reality. The source is you. It needs to align with you. Don't necessarily do stuff because other people are saying to do it. I really empower everybody, every spiritual practitioner, every spiritual being to align with your intuition, what you feel is right, what you feel is correct. Okay, because when you start to tap into that, you're tapping into your past life practices. This is going to be the most powerful way for you to practice. Okay. But anyway, so for me, whenever I'm smudging, I actually sing a song for this, but I sing, God is clearing the space of all negative energy. And it's like, and I'll say that as I clear my space. And this will allow me to clear my space spiritual in my own way. So that's just one example. But again, I really empower y'all, tap into your intuition, because that's what's tapping you into your past life practices. That's what's going to be the most effective. It's not necessarily going to be what everybody else is doing online or what everybody else is doing on TikTok or on Facebook. It's not going to necessarily be that. Tap into you and your intuition. Okay, so before we get into the next thing, does anybody have any questions?
Questions? Yeah, good.
Okay. Okay, cool. So the next thing is the most powerful thing that human beings are given, which is intention and attention. I mean, so people, we talk about law of attraction, manifestation, but that's all that it is. It's intention and attention. And this is something that has been built into our design as human beings. Okay. This is innate abilities that we have. Okay. And this is kind of like, not the key to manifestation, but it is the truth of who we are as people. Okay. It is the truth. This is something that we all use every single day, okay? And this is the most powerful way that you are going to develop your psychic abilities. It's through intention and attention, okay? Intention is setting the intention that my psychic abilities are going to develop, or setting the intention that when I do this practice, I am developing my psychic abilities. Okay, you're setting the intention, and then you're giving attention to that. You're giving attention to every time your psychic abilities have developed. You're giving attention to every time your psychic abilities have worked. Okay, this is the key: intention, attention. Okay, intention and attention. I say it's an innate human ability because this is something that the cavemen have experienced. It's part of the human experience. Okay, this ability to attract, the law of attraction. It's in us. It's in us. It's very simple. This is what it is. Cavemen. They intended that, when they were hungry, they intended that when I go out into the forest, I'm going to get food. They paid attention to where the food was, how to track for the food, if they're going hunting, or how to gather the food. And then they were able to eat and not feel hungry anymore, right? Again, very simple. It's very straightforward. This is the key to anything you want to manifest in your life: intention, attention. It's that simple. Okay. So that is going to be one of the foundational things for developing your psychic abilities is intention, attention, intending that your psychic abilities will be developed and paying attention to that development. Okay. There is a trick though. Maybe I'll talk about at the end. Okay, so the next thing is meditation and visualization with feeling. Okay, so meditation, we talked about that already, clearing your mind. I don't know if it's in this recording or not, but I talked about how with meditation, it's not about how long you meditate, it's more about how frequently you meditate. So I really encourage y'all to start with 1 minute. If you're kind of one of those people who are like, my thoughts are too much, it's too hard to meditate, start with 1 minute. Be consistent. You say how serious I got? Be consistent. This is the key, is consistency. It's not about meditating for 30 minutes or an hour. It's about doing that 1 minute every single day. Start with 1 minute. For those of you who are more comfortable with meditation, start with 5 minutes. And when I say more comfortable, these are for the people who are able to sit for 30 or 40 minutes. Start with being consistent with 5 minutes a day. Don't try to do the 30 minutes a day. Okay, I know some of y'all can do it. Start with 5 minutes a day. Okay, be consistent with that. Once you've done 5 minutes every day for a year, then go to 10 minutes. But that's it. And I say 5 minutes because there's going to be some days where you don't have time to do 30 minutes or an hour, right? So for those days, just stick with 5 minutes. Now, if you do have time to sit a little bit longer in meditation, then sit a little bit longer, but stick with doing 5 minutes every single day, okay? So that's for meditation. Now, visualizing with feeling. So this is another technique you can do. You don't have to do this every day. I would try to do this once a week, okay? So whatever psychic ability you're developing, I would try to do this for 9 weeks straight, once a week. Visualize your psychic abilities being developed with feeling. Imagine yourself. So if you were working on, this is more psychic, this is more supernatural. So let me think of this. So if you're thinking about if you want to get into mediumship, you need to start visualizing yourself with feeling and visualizing the end result, visualizing whatever your goal is with mediumship. So let's say you wanted to work with other people when it comes to being a medium. You need to start visualizing yourself being a medium and visualizing it with feeling. Again, these are for those of y'all who are developing your mediumship powers. For some of y'all, it's already online, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you want to start developing those powers so they're even more stronger, you need to visualize it. You need to visualize it with feeling. So important, okay? It has to be with feeling. If you're not using feeling, then usually it tells me two things. If you're consistently visualizing and you're consistently visualizing with without feeling, and or not without feeling, but the feeling isn't coming up and you're being consistent with your visualization, that means that it's actually not aligned with your heart's desires. So you need to do a little bit deeper digging in that. And when it comes to what was the other thing? Okay. When it comes to visualizing, with visualizing with feeling, right? So, but if it's like something like, oh, yesterday I visualized and I didn't have any feeling, but today I have the feeling again, then that's okay, right? That's gonna be okay. But you want to visualize with feeling. This is key. Whenever you're manifesting anything, it needs to be with feeling. Okay. So even if you can, what would be better is, if you're at home, you're not really feeling, you're like, I'm visualizing, but I'm not really feeling the feeling. Go to a space where you know you will feel the feeling. Okay. And this is when you can tap into your astrology sign. I'm a water sign. So I know if I'm visualizing and I'm not feeling anything, I'm going to the ocean. And I know for a fact, if I visualize there, that feeling's going to come up. Okay. That feeling that's going to help me heighten my vibration to attract what I want in my life. Okay. Okay. So that's the foundation to psychic abilities. Do you guys have any question about that?
Yeah, question about that. No, that's good.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. So, okay, so we have some time left. So let's get into understanding psychic powers. So, Marlene, how much time do we have? I forget.
Let's see here. It's 12:13 and we have until 1 o'clock.
Okay. In that space that you're in now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna stop at 12:30 so we can do questions. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go through these psychic abilities real quick. And for those of y'all who want to know more, I'll send you guys a link on YouTube to look into these more. Okay, so different types of clairs. So the first one is clairaudient. That's your hearing ability, or your ability to hear the unhearable. Okay, we're gonna put this in quotes because at this point, because the veil is being lifted so rapidly, so quickly, people say the clair is the ability to see the unseen or the unheard, but really, I think I tapped into the root of the word. Okay, so all of the clair abilities, all of the clairs. Clair means clear, right? So we talked about earlier how the key to developing your psychic abilities is cleaning your space, cleaning your mental, physical, spiritual, clearing your mental, physical, spiritual, right? We're clearing those spaces. We're clearing our body, mind, and soul in order to tap into these psychic abilities more and to tap into the clairs, right? Because clair means clear. So clairaudient is clear hearing. This is one that a lot of musicians are tapped into, but it's not just musicians. It's like, and when I say musicians, it's not about your ability to play an instrument. It's your ability to hear what sounds right, right? Because even people who play instruments, they're not necessarily clairaudient, to be honest. And what I mean by that is, so for example, producers, a lot of them, they don't know how to play instruments, but they know how to hear a track and hear what sounds right and hear what to take out and what to put in, right? This is them tapping into their clairaudient abilities. Also, people hear, different voices and different beings too. People can hear frequencies. This is one thing that I've always been really tapped into, is my ability to hear frequencies. And you so hearing that ringing in your ear, okay, and there's a difference between the left and the right ear. Your left ear is going to be tapping into your guides, your spiritual guides. Your right ear is going to be your higher self, okay, or your future self. So Claire, audience is all about hearing. I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I want to get through all the Claires real quick. So that's more about Claire hearing. And for any of these Claires, if you have more questions, just ask about them at the end, okay? Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is your ability to tap into the unknown, see what's unseen, right? People say, like, I see dead people, seeing ghosts, seeing gods, seeing angels. I have one friend, her clairvoyance is like through the roof, and it's like she can literally see, like, whenever she's doing healing work, she can see the angels surrounding her, helping her with the work that she's doing. And so with some people, they might be able to hear the angels and hear the frequencies, because every being has their own frequency. And this is kind of important because there's so many names at this point, because as human beings, this is part of our ability. We want to give a name to everything, right? Everything that we don't know, we want to change the name to. So a lot of people say when working with guides, you want to know their original name, but I say that you want to know their frequency. If you can tune into their frequency, this is really the true, how do I want to say, the true name of that being is their frequency. Okay, so anyway, so clairvoyance is the ability to see the unknown, or it's not seeing the unknown, it's clear seeing. Because again, the programming that we have grown up with when it comes to the mental programming and the physical programming in what we eat, this is like the biggest blocks that have blocked us from all of the clairs, okay? Okay, so there's clairvoyance, there's clairsentient, which is intuitive feeling. So a lot of y'all, maybe when you go into haunted houses or something, which I highly recommend not to do, highly recommend not to do. But if y'all curious, you can go in, just make sure you sage yourself before and after, okay? But when it comes to clairsentience, maybe you guys have gone through like a house and you feel somebody touching your shoulder or something like that, or maybe you're tapping into mediumship, and maybe one of your ancestors have come back to visit, and in a positive way. But you'll feel them like intuitive feeling, or you can touch an object of a person who is deceased and tap into hopefully their highest version of themselves, right? But this is more intuitive feeling. And so, okay, claircognizance is clear knowing. So this is really interesting. A lot of people who are deemed quote unquote intelligent, they actually have this, and they don't say it's claircognizance because they're just like, oh no, I'm just a genius. But they're actually tapping into this, and they're tapping into their superconscious mind. And so with claircognizance, clear knowing, this is basically like a lot of people who experience this, they just know. So it's like you'll watch a interview with somebody, and it's like the answer before the person says it. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be anything like mundane, right? Not mundane, but it doesn't have to be anything normal. It's like you'll listen to like a lecture with an astrophysicist. You've never done astrophysics before, but you can understand where they're coming from. Even though you don't necessarily know all of the terms, you can understand everything. And you could even answer questions in astrophysics, but on a basic, not basic, on a basic level, right? Again, you might not know the terms, but you can still answer the question. This is you tapping into claircognizance, clear knowing. You just get the answers. It's not even about thinking. You're just getting the answers. It's just coming to you, okay? A lot of people who have claircognizance, they struggle with what is it? Talking to people and interrupting people because they already know what the person's about to say. So this is one of the challenges for a lot of claircognizant children, especially. So they have to learn how to like overcome this and be patient with the other person and with conversations. Okay, then the next one is clairalience. That's clear smell. A lot of mediums, when they start to channel, they'll start to smell things out of the ordinary, right? It's like there's no oranges in the room, but they smell oranges, right? Because maybe the person that they're channeling, or the person who's trying to connect with them from another realm, is trying to connect with them in that way, okay? And a lot of chefs also tap into their clairalience. The next one is clairgustinance. Chefs also tap into this, right? This is clear taste. Oh, and real quick with clear smell, sorry. So a lot of people who have clairalience, it's they're able to cook and not taste anything, but it's like they smell the aroma coming from the steam, and they know what to add. They don't have to taste anything. They just know what to add. Okay. But also chefs, they tap into clairgustance. This is why they have to taste, but it's like on an extreme level. It's like they can taste something and they can tell you, oh, this has these spices in it. This has this herb in it. Like it's on key. It's like, you don't even have to tell them the recipe. They know everything that's in it. Okay. And they're able to replicate it to a T. So they have clear taste. That's clairgustance. A lot of chefs are tapped into this. Not just chefs, but people who cook regularly, right? Okay. Cooks. And they're able to taste even without having a physical food in front of them, right? They can just start to taste. Oh, I'm tasting sweetness or bitterness. They're able to tap into that, okay? Okay, Claire. Okay, so then there's clairtangency, which I kind of touched on too, which is touching things and tapping into the clarity of everything that's here through touching. And then and then clairsentience is more about your intuitive feeling. So it's more about tapping into your intuition, tapping into your gut response, right? Which is one of the strongest and most intuitive feelings when it comes to tapping into the subconscious or the superconscious. That's your gut feeling. And meditation helps develop that gut feeling. Okay, so the last one is clairprognoscence, which is tapping into knowing the future. This one we can get a little bit into, but I'm gonna save that because I want to talk about we'll talk about this a little bit. So claircognizance, knowing the future. So for this, you can, how do I put this? For claircognizance, it's pretty easy to develop. A lot of people actually experience claircognizance when they're sleeping, but you have to understand how to see the difference between a dream that's claircognizant and a future vision. Okay. A lot of people who have Sagittarius in their chart, it's like I don't want to say it's uncontrollable, but it's unblockable. Like they experience this regardless. It's like this is just part of their experience as a Sagittarius. So if you have a Sagittarius sun or moon in your astrology chart or rising, you're going to really be tapped into your precognizance, which is your ability to see the future. Okay. Okay. Do you guys want me to get into remote viewing, or do you want to go straight into questions?
Did anybody here want to know about remote viewing? Somebody asked me about it, and so I asked her. Yes, please.
Yeah, talk about
Remote
it.
viewing.
Okay. So with remote viewing, meditation helps a lot with this. I know I keep on saying meditation, but I'm telling you, meditation is the key to remote viewing, because when you are remote viewing, so the key for this, developing that ability, you have to have a clear mind. You need to clear your mind. You need to know how to clear your mind. And meditation is going to help you with this. You could also do breath work before you start remote viewing. But this is the key to remote viewing, is clearing your mind. Okay. You need to be able to clear your mind before you do remote viewing. But remote viewing there's a process to it. So once your mind is clear, it's basically a process of, let me just I guess I'm going to tap into what my process is. Many people do this in different ways, and it's very effective. But you want to make sure you're doing this with the right intentions, okay? Don't be trying to spy on people. That's not the right intentions. Don't do that. Don't do that. When it comes to remote viewing, you really want to make sure you have clear intentions about this. But yeah, I don't know how to explain this, but you want to clear your mind. And when you clear your mind, you're able to just receive. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, like right now, I don't know, in the space that you're in, is there a plant or a flower or anything like that? Like,
No,
no? Let me Well, I don't know. So that's just an example. There's like a picture too. But anyway, so basically you want to clear your mind so that you can tap into the space that you're trying to remotely view. Does that make sense? Oh, sorry. Give me a verbal yes or no. So I can't. Okay, sorry, I can't hear if you guys are nodding. Okay, so this is the kind of the trick to remote viewing. But you got to clear your mind. You got to clear your mind, and you've got to tap into meditation to clear your mind. Okay. And the way to test this, right? You want to test this with a partner. So so maybe you guys can set up a day to do this, but one of y'all is at a location that you don't know of, preferably, you know, out. You can start within Ocean Shores, but outside would be a little bit more challenging. So I would do that. You don't know anything about where they're at. But basically you are at home remote viewing and it's basically another way of channeling, basically. But you're just channeling that information, you're writing it down, they're going to a space, you're channeling where they're at, and then they're coming back, and then you guys kind of compare notes or maybe switch. You guys can do this on an easy level, right? You can do this just in Ocean Shores. One person goes out while the other person stays in and is remotely viewing. But it's just another way to channel, really channel where that person is at. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Let's get into personal questions when it comes to, not personal questions, when it comes to developing psychic abilities. So, okay, so let's get into questions. So do you guys have any questions, any just questions about you or your experience with developing your psychic abilities, any blocks that you guys may have? I'm here.
Yes.
Okay, my name's Debbie. I'm one of those people that struggles with the meditation. I can't-
Hmm.
When we try to do our meditation here, my mind wanders. What do you recommend for help with that?
So first of all, do you know your astrology sign?
Oh, no, I'm Libra.
She's a Libra.
Okay, so you have to and do you know your moon sign at all?
Oh, she doesn't.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so yeah, so obviously, like I said earlier, start with 1 minute. Start with 1 minute. And again, the key to meditation is you're clearing your mind, okay? So there's a bunch of techniques to do this. And actually, one of the easiest ways is to simply relax. That's it. And this is coming from monks, okay? This isn't just me saying some off the wall stuff. Relax. Just literally sit there and just relax. And when it comes to your thoughts, if your thoughts are overwhelming, you need to just kind of you need to detach from them and watch them. So they'll come up and even the times that you do get attached, become aware that you're like, oh, I'm thinking about this way too much. I'm gonna step back out, pass it, and let the thoughts just roll through. Because even monks who meditate a lot, when they're starting off, even the first couple of years, they still have thoughts coming through them. They still have emotions coming through them. And then, there was even one monk, one of his family members passed away when, a couple of years into his monkhood. And, when a family member passes away, stuff comes up. And so stuff was coming up. So his meditation was a little bit different for a little bit. And then it went back to, having a clear mind. So just know that meditation is a process, but the key is to have a clear mind. Okay. You want to sit down for a minute. Relaxing is the key. Like, don't even close your eyes until you are fully relaxed. Don't try to force meditation. I think that's a lot of things people are taught to force themselves to meditate. Don't do that. Just relax. Obviously, if your eyes are open, stare at one thing and focus on that one thing for 1 minute, but start with that. But the key is to relax. Then once you feel like 1 minute is too fast, move to 2 minutes, okay? But for you, Debbie, I want you, in terms of that consistency, I want you to at least be consistent for 1 minute every day. Some days you may be okay with doing more, some days no, but start with 1 minute every day, okay? And yeah, and you're an air sign, but I feel like there's something up with your moon sign too, but air signs, y'all, like, are very airy. Like, So it's and especially as a Libra, you guys have a lot of thoughts going through you. So but again, the key for Libras is to relax. Okay, I mean, it's the key for everybody, but I think Libras especially, you guys like really enjoy to be in a relaxed state. How do I put this? Like for you, a relaxed state is really going to push you towards being the best version of yourself. Whereas for a Capricorn, they don't really like to relax. They like to just work, 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 and that works for them, right? So this is like why I say for you, especially relax. Like some people thrive in like not stress, that's not the right word. Some people thrive in action, 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 action. For you, for Libras, y'all need to relax. Okay. This is the key. Just relax. Okay, cool. So does that answer your question, Debbie?
Anybody else have a question?
I have one for you. I'm Jennifer,
Mhm.
and my intuition is strong, and I try to allow it to guide me. But how do I get over the fear of resistance? An example would be, I get an intuition that there's something I should do. It's like, but I don't want to do that. And, it just keeps coming back, you really need to do this, but I don't want to do that. And, there's the just do it, and discipline and, all the things that people say to overcome those feelings. But there's almost, I don't know if it's a fear, I've read the books, fear of success, fear of failure. But there's sometimes I get a strong resistance to something I'm feeling I should move towards.
And can you give me a more specific example, if possible? Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm trying to
She's
think of-
thinking.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
just thinking.
okay.
My life is changing dramatically this past year.
Mm.
Partner passed away a year ago, so I'm kind of just open to moving in all kinds of directions. And
Mm.
once I start moving towards something, and it feels like I should do that. But, the longer I resist, then I start feeling like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that if I feel resistance. But I get confused about what my intuition, what my life is trying to tell me.
Okay.
And
Okay.
56 years.
Okay, so there's two things. The first thing is you want to learn the difference between your intuition and your ego. Because sometimes your ego is telling you to do something, and sometimes it's okay to feel resistance because you're like, wait, no, this is my ego. Like we're not doing this anymore. So you want to know the difference between your intuition and your ego. Your intuition is not based out of fear, and your ego is based out of fear, right? So if you have something like something is telling,
Example. I have an opportunity for someone who is doing some major work in helping young women, and she's got some best-selling books and that kind of thing. And I was actively involved in the women's movement in the 60s and 70s. And she is wanting to get together with me to participate in doing helping with some of the things that she's working on. And part of me is feeling like, I really should do this. I have a lot to contribute to the younger women from the history perspective and what was actually happening in the 60s and 70s. But the other part of me is, this is going to blow up my life, and I don't really want to put that much energy back into that. I feel like I've done that. And so I'm waffling back and forth between, do I jump into this or don't I? Because I know that if I do, it's going to be big,
Yeah. Oh, girl. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's something you need to do some deep emotional transformation. And we need to talk about this a little bit more in depth. But yeah, you need to tap into what that is, because there's a root to that. There's a reason why you're feeling resistance. And I think there's some inner child work that needs to be done around that. And that's all that it is. And yeah, because there's like a fear of change going on, right? It's your ego. Your ego is resisting. So you need to tap into that, because usually when the ego is resisting, all that it means is that there is your ego doesn't want to let go of that old version of you, and you need to like how do I want to say, it's kind of like a child, like you kind of need to like coddle it a little bit, do some work to really tell the child that like, no, it's okay, like this change is going to be beautiful, it's going to be a beautiful thing. And by work, I mean just do a little bit of deep therapy to see where the root of that resistance is. And once you uproot that, then you'll be good to go, and you'll be able to really fly and soar. But yeah, mm, mm, mm.
You got it. Look for the root. Yeah. And that's true with a lot of things that bother us, is that and meditation does help for just letting it tell you. It's like a story, tell you where you're going and what's triggering you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, was that helpful? I know that it wasn't like, I don't, okay, I'm not saying to like, because meditation, it does take time, but just do some deep inner child work. You need to investigate where this is coming from. And you can literally, really simple, sit down, ask the universe, ask God, ask your ancestors, hey, I need clarity on this. Help me get clarity on this. That's it. It's that simple. Okay. Okay.
Any other,
Thank you.
Mhm.
any other questions?
Well, this is Debbie again, if nobody else has a question.
Okay.
You mentioned ancestor altar. Is that like a specific thing, or like I have things around my house from grandmothers and great grandmothers that bring me joy and warmth when I look at them every day? Is that kind of what you're talking about when you talk about an ancestor altar, or is it something more specific than that?
Well, usually, so an ancestor, I mean, it's beautiful actually, because it works for you because you're acknowledging their presence every time you see those objects. So that kind of works. That like I said, everybody has their own way of doing things, but I think that's actually really beautiful because you're acknowledging those objects every day, I'm guessing. So that's actually that's great. But an ancestor altar is usually a designated space with some pictures of your past loved ones, or if you don't have photos, you can write the names of past loved ones. And usually at that altar, I would put like white roses, and light a candle, especially if I'm trying to manifest something and I need their support or their help. I will go to that space to ask them for help or support, and then usually put something sweet. You put something that they like, or that they like they liked when they were alive. But it's just a designated space for you to honor your ancestors. That's really what an ancestor altar is. You can put like gold, and then also you can give them money, and you just want to give them like offerings for the afterlife, because whatever you put in that space, they're going to receive it in the afterlife, right? And this is the thing, a lot of people, they're totally disconnected from their ancestors. And you really want to, sorry. You want to empower them, not empower them, you want to empower yourself to just get connected with them, okay? So especially like alcohol, if they've liked a certain alcohol in the past, or sweets, something sweet, something that like they would really love and appreciate. For my mom, on my mom's side, I put lavender, because I know her family grew up like in the lavender region. So Yeah, so it's like you want to put stuff like that, but it's nice to have a designated space, but I think it's also really beautiful that you have it throughout your whole home. So I would say, have both. But yeah, but I think the important thing is that you're acknowledging their presence and you're interacting with them every day. This is really important. But if you can put some offerings next to those objects, like any foods that you remember they liked, was it you who was asking about the spice who had the Indian ancestry or no?
Jennifer asked
Oh, that was Jennifer. Okay. Well, but my point is, like for Jennifer, she mentioned her mother liked sweet candles. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, light a candle to really honor her. Okay, that's really, really important. But yeah, so does that answer your question, Debbie?
I think it's good to honor these people, that it's telling them that you know they're right there with you. So,
Mhm. Always,
oh,
always. Mhm.
anybody else? Any other questions? I'm good. I think everybody's good.
Okay.
I have a question. Are you doing back to Ocean Shores anytime?
No, probably not. No, I'm doing a lot of remote work and I actually found my community here in Bali. So I'm very happy here. Yeah. It's like, and I didn't talk about this during the lecture, but I think Ocean Shores actually is pretty spiritual, but finding a spiritual space and spiritual community is really, really important when doing spiritual work also. Um, but yeah, I might visit though, but I don't know when. That's that's my answer. I don't know when. But yeah, so for right now, I'm in Bali and I love it. I really enjoy my life here and my psychic abilities have been like really developed. So much so that I want to bring a group here next year. So I'm working on a retreat that's gonna happen next year. So yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, of course, of course. And if any of you guys are interested, I'm doing free 30-minute one-to-one sessions. So if there's anything that you guys want to go a little bit deeper in when it comes to like unlocking and unleashing your psychic abilities, yeah, Marlene has my email and I'll send her the email with this link and maybe she'll forward it to everybody. So I can give you the link to schedule that if you want to do a free 30-minute session. Okay.
That's okay if I share it with others that are making me here today. Okay, super. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Very interesting, our first Zoom meeting. Yes. Good day. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you guys too. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Marlene, for inviting me.
Yes.
Yeah, and just let me know if you would like to have me on again. I'm more than happy. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye. Peace.
Peace.